Very quickly, because we haven't got too long, I want to get everybody to introduce themselves quickly, and then we'll go on to the chat. So, Liz first.
Oh my God. Am I on? Somebody's waving. Yes, okay. No, somebody's waving to you.
You sound like
Hi, I'm Liz Brandt. I am co-founder and chief exec of Ctrl-Shift. We've been in this market for 12 years, looking at how to build a sustainable personal data ecosystem that enables businesses to grow and individuals to gain more value from their data. We work with large blue chip companies all over the world. I'll leave it there for a second.
Perfect. Harrison.
Hi, I'm Harrison Tang. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Spokio. Spokio is one of the biggest data aggregator and people search engine in the US. We aggregate about 15 billion records into 600 million person entities to help about 15 million users a month to search and connect with others. And this is my first and only job so far. So I told people this is my best and worst job at that.
So you're an intern. Thorsten.
Hi. Yeah, my name is Thorsten Dittmar. I'm the founder of polyPoly, which is a cooperative based in Europe. We are about to build a fully decentralized edge-based data ecosystem. And my background is basically tech. I started my tech career in the late 70s. So yeah, long time ago. I saw much more tech giants dying than which are still alive.
And Sabine.
Yeah, hello from my side here, dialing in from Stuttgart. My name is Sabine Scheunert. I'm heading the digital and IT department for everything with regards to sales, marketing, and after sales globally here for our company. We are about to make one of the biggest shifts when it comes to the car industry and how we define the next customer journey. And also, if you imagine what it means to compete in a world where we are running things on a rather brownfield approach, but shifting nevertheless, hopefully with the same speed, our gears than others. And I'm quite happy in being here as well today in that panel.
Perfect. Everyone's been very short and sweet. If I stand on the down here, is that going to be okay? Because don't want to do this the whole time. Yeah. All right. Okay. Good. All right. So this is the title of this is personal data economy. So I thought it'd be good to actually talk about revenue rather than highfalutin ideas. Now, Liz, I know that you've produced reports, and you're one of the first people to spot this opportunity and to create this agency that proselytizes this whole idea. And you've produced reports, projecting the kind of money that could be saved or made through this revolutionary idea of people taking control of their data. So can you just give us some numbers and then explain where these savings and revenues will come from?
Yeah, great. So just quickly to say thank you very much for inviting me. I feel like a teenager who's been allowed out again. So woo, the free song. I'm actually seeing 3D
I saw you
people.
hugging earlier as well.
I know, I hugged. It was great. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for organising it. And yes, I have produced reports. I'm only 35. I've just aged badly through the process. We've done a lot of reports, actually. And I think one of the most significant ones was the one we did for the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, who hold the responsibility for data strategy for the UK. And that was looking at the economic growth opportunities, the personal data economy. And our research enabled us to identify the opportunities and also some of the barriers. I know we're going to talk to some of those later. So I've just talked to the opportunity at the moment. And we work with economists. Is anybody an economist in the room before I start on that one? Okay, so quite difficult to translate what they have to say, but we got there and it was an amazing journey. They were definitely looking at what the opportunity is. If you look backwards that we currently have, so how do we make ourselves more efficient? When we take data from across people's lives, which is what we're talking about, this end-to-end, where we're looking at our health data, our finance data, our energy data, which is quite important at the moment, it turns out, our mobility data, etc. And we bring that all together. What does that create? And the efficiencies they identified for the UK economy is 27.8 billion And people have tried to take that number and extrapolate it across different economies. I wouldn't if I were you. However, it's an interesting indicator. But the size of that is nothing in comparison to the opportunity for innovation. And the opportunity for innovation comes really from a great word I got from economists, which took ages to pronounce, called recombinant innovation. It's great. It's kind of really big rounded word. It's the recombining of assets. And actually in the automotive industry, they do it a lot. So they recombine different assets to build different car models. Yeah, so what we're doing here is we're recombining different data assets to create different value, which the consumer can access in the form of decision support tools or life management tools, and businesses get to benefit from through a shift in how the data creates new revenues and pulls new retained revenues across ecosystems. And just to kind of maybe bring some of that to life, that can work in ways, let's say, around health. And Sarah was talking earlier on about mental health. For instance, how you can bring together your exercise data, your sleep data, and your social data, let's say, to see how you are, for you yourself, to see how you're performing mentally, and then put in place things that actually help you move that forward. And I'll bring another example, which is tiny, but not actually not really looking at how you combine much data, but it's still really interesting, which is something called Sleep Cycle. If anybody's come across it, it monitors your sleep. It tells you when you went to bed every day, what time you woke up in the morning, whether you snore or not, which my husband's been telling me for years, which is so embarrassing. It records you, which is even worse. But anyway, and then whether you talk at night, but also what steps you take during the day, what exercise you've taken. So you can start to see and draw patterns out of the data for your life, so you can make better decisions. So that's a great service. The way that you make money out of that is multitudinal.
All right.
And we can talk about that anon. So I just thought
we're monetizing snoring, is what you're saying. That's what I'm taking out of that.
Yeah. I hope they're not going to use that data anywhere, and it's certainly not got my name attached to it.
So now I'm going to go to Thorsten, because your company, this is pretty much what you do. You're building personal data stores for people, if I'm correct. And I've looked at your website, and there's a number on there, which is that US consumers generate $250 worth of data value. I don't know what period that covers, but maybe you can talk a little bit about where that value comes from.
Yeah. First of all, it is what we are doing is not really just about data, because from our point of view, one of the main mistakes we are currently doing is ignoring one other big asset. We as citizens are spending around about 500 billion euros every year in Europe, just for our personal IT, and we are just utilizing 5% of that power. In our case, it is about bringing data and algorithms together, but not in companies. We were doing that on the end users devising and utilizing the unused computing power of the users. And so you can make a bunch of money with data, but currently we are sending our data to a company. If it's a good one, a nice one, you never know. You maybe know when it's too late. But in our case, it is exactly the other way around. So that companies can sell algorithms to our devices. The data will stay on that devices and will not leave the devices anymore. And then the computation is done on the end user's device, and people get paid for that unused computing power. And from a social aspect and an ethical aspect, that's a very, very important point, because if you're selling raw data, which is, most of their data wallets are doing so, then data privacy is getting a luxury good, because people who really need that money will sell their digital privacy. And we should not bring people in a poverty situation in an even more difficult situation. So we should maybe create a way how they can generate money out of their own data without harming their privacy sphere. So The way how you can earn money with data, there are lots of different ways. You know, in average, companies are spending around about 10 euros per customer just to keep the CRM data up to date. So, for example, for a company like Nestle, that's a 3-digit million euros amount per year. You know, if you just imagine that round about 25, 30, maybe a little more companies are connected to us, having our CRM data, and if these 10 euros are not going to, data aggregators or harvesters, going directly to the end users, that's the way how end users can make money without harming their privacy, for example.
Okay, interesting. So, Sabine, if we can turn to you, we had Volvo on a panel yesterday, and we were talking about the explosion of data that's coming out of connected cars. So it'd be interesting to hear from a Mercedes point of view. Do you see that data as a revenue possibility, or do you see it as just a way of improving your services or improving the design of your cars?
Yeah, we see it firsthand as an opportunity to deliver better services, to provide new digital products. We see with all the technology that went into our cars, I mean, you can imagine we're sitting of a magnitude of data, not only coming out of our cars, but also in particular when we see where our customers are today, either in the online journey or still in the physical world with our retail partners. And I mean, our ambition is clearly as Mercedes-Benz to offer the most luxurious online journey. And by bearing that in mind, we certainly need that kind of data in terms of being better with regards to personalization when it comes to defining new products, new services around either ownership or mobility or whatever it means, I would say, in that field of where we have our interest. And Thorsten raised a very, very important topic. We also took the decision already a couple of years ago to put the data into the hands of where we think where it belongs, and this is the customer. And I think what we have missed somehow is that there is not a lot of awareness when it comes to the end customer, what kind of data he or she is sharing, to which company they have trust, and where they leave what kind of data footprint. And we also, this is a reason why we launched a couple of privacy centers where really customers have the opportunity by logging in understanding more about the data we are gathering, in giving permission to us where they wanted to use their data, where also they wanted to give it away. For example, in that case, we are collaborating with London in terms of making the streets of London safer when it comes to pedestrians and also bikers, etc., all anonymous. And we can do these kind of new things, but we also believe that the data economy should be, I would say, to the balance and to the benefit for both of the customer, but also for us within the companies. But for that, we need more transparency, and we need to have a good and common understanding where you have data, where data is stored, and this hopefully all also in a very sustainable way.
So Sabine, I'm sadly not a Mercedes-Benz owner. I own a very old Ford.
Not yet, hopefully.
Oh yeah, well, never know. So can you give me any user experience of how a Mercedes-Benz owner might take control of some of their data?
Yeah, absolutely.
How does it work?
Let me give you one example where we combine currently data that we have already, and also we are trying to help people, our customers, shifting now into full electric cars. We were exactly doing what Thorsten was underlining. You have every one of us is going out, taking either their cars or by bus or walking or taking bikes. And we absolutely wanted to identify, to help people understanding more and more their mobility need. And by doing so, we launched an app, which is called the EQ Ready app, which is then monitoring, registering, but only on your device, your way of individual mobility need. And by doing that over a couple of days, and again, always staying inside your mobile device, because your mobile device is already a computer, and we are able to do it by simply utilizing data information out of the sensoric information out of your mobile phone. We are able to identify whether you would be fully ready to switch into a full electric car, yes or no, because we can analyze where charging stations are located, what was your longest drive, how long you're standing with your car. And we are also able to identify when you were really taking a car or you simply were utilizing a bus or a subway or something else. By doing it, it gives a very good feeling, in particular for those customers who are in between that decision. Can I switch already? Is it, yeah, or what about range anxiety? Is it still something where I should pay attention to? And I can tell you, without going too much into detail, we have millions of downloads. We have people writing us by saying, thanks for that opportunity. It felt well. I was able to analyze my own individual behavior. And thanks to that, I'm able to now switch to a full electric car, because it was a personalized offer that you allowed me to give me a decision basis. And this is just one tiny example that shows you that it is not to our benefit. I mean, the customer can switch into whatever kind of electric car. For sure, we hope that we give appetite of opting towards a Mercedes-Benz. But I think it's a good demonstration that we leave data footprints, and we want that our customers understand, by utilizing our digital services, that the data belongs to them. It is for them an opportunity to take better decisions or to give them benefits in terms of time back, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a way of how we understand digitization, and also what we have in mind by thinking about the data economy of the future.
I want to bring Harrison in, but I think Thorsten just got, if you could be quick and add your comment.
Just want to add one other case here. We are currently talking to a government in the northern part of Europe, and what they would like to do is using the sensors of our phones when we are driving, and the phone starts shaking. So basically what they want to do is they want to measure the quality of the streets. That's a so-called crowd censoring system. So all the drivers, they don't have to expose the data, they don't have to expose their sensors. It's exactly the other way around. We are locally computing the quality of the street, and then every day we are updating a map of what is the quality of the street. So they can go directly next day to a new break in the street and repair it and save energy by that, and so on and so forth. And it costs nothing, because everything is fully decentralized based on a system or on an infrastructure which is already there. So it's good for companies, it's good for the community or the society, and it is also good for us as citizens.
Perfect. Okay. So Harrison, you waited a long time. Apologies for that. So what your company is doing, a kind of sophisticated lookup, isn't it? So that so individuals can get a better sense of who's trying to contact them. Do you see your company as part of this personal data economy? And how do you see revenues being generated by the kind of services that you're providing?
Yes, of course. I think Spokio is part of the personal data economy. Now, since we're a data company, we like to be exact about our definitions. And I think the word personal data economy can be defined in a very concrete, narrow way, and also in a broad manner. Now, one of the things we have to realize is data is the mean to the end, not the end itself. It's the how to the what, right? Not the what. So, for example, earlier we talked about connected cars. Data doesn't drive itself. Data helps us drive better, right? Or later on, with self-driving cars, it can help us transport from point A to point B. But data itself doesn't go from A to B, right? In this conference, we're talking about authentication, identity verification. Those are the mean to the end, right? You help us create financial accounts, banking accounts, and financial access. But identity verification, authentication by itself, it's not the end. And in the consumer world, a famous blogger once says, Spokio before you date, right? Now, make sure that the person you date is who they say they are. Now, data doesn't help you date. Data doesn't date, right? Digital identity today doesn't kiss each other. It's a way to the end. It's the mean to the end, the how to the what. So data really, when we talk about personal data economy, it really is what I call a meta multi-sided platform or marketplace. The word meta is because the marketplace itself is not the traditional like eBay or Amazon, those kind of marketplaces. It's not exchange of goods. Rather, it's an exchange of data and value that empowers other marketplaces. That's why it's called the meta. Now, why is it multi-sided? Because one of the things we have to realize, there's multiple parties involved in this ecosystem, right? There is the verifiers and searchers, there's the data subject, and lastly, there's the data issuers. So Spokio plays in the data economy, right? In the strict sense, where we're in this data industry, where it's an exchange of the data between the issuers, the verifiers and searchers, and then we want to include the holders and data subjects in the equation in the self-sovereign decentralized identity world. But that said, when we're talking about what the panelists talk about here in the broader sense is that this data industry, this data economy can empower multiple use cases, whether it's the machine learnings, right, AI for image recognitions and so on, or identity verification, authentication, or self-driving cars. That's the broader economy at scale. But when we're talking about in the strict sense, the data economy is really this trust triangle between data subject, verifier searchers, and issuers.
Okay, great. Well, as I was saying on the panel yesterday, and apologies for repeating myself, I got interested in this idea a few years ago from going to Helsinki, my data conference. I even set up a Google News alert to sort of send me anything to do with personal data economy and personal data stores. And I collected this big file and I had all of these startups in there and news stories about it and stats and stuff. But here we are, and correct me if I'm wrong, Liz, but I would say that really the market is still kind of embryonic and it's still just a fantastic idea that hasn't happened in any real scale yet. So why is it taking so long, and what do you think it will take to trigger it into explosive growth?
Yeah, so first of all,
you were one of the first people I ever saw talking about this.
I apologise for that. I was a bit early. I think that was the thing, which is unusual for me. So anybody knows me knows that that's quite unusual. But first of all, a big thank you for getting us onto this stage together, because it's just always great to be on a stage with people who are just super bright. And a small complaint, which is we've only got half an hour.
Yeah.
So, like super bright people on the stage, just unbelievable to actually be able to interact with these guys. It's amazing. I think, so go to the point of why is it taking so long? And actually go back to the DCMS report that we did. There was a dark night where we brought all of the analysis we've done on the market together. And that was The Economist, that was talking to 50 different organizations, that was reviewing 100 different reports around the world, and bring our own insights to that. And we did the analysis, and there was a sudden awakening, which is, this is not an easy thing to solve, which is a bit sad, really, given I've been trying at it for about 8 years. But really identifying what the component parts are that need to all work together to make it work. And those really are three key pieces. One is the actual infrastructure, and what Harrison's just been talking about, some of that infrastructure, what Thorsten has been talking about, some of that infrastructure. So we've got entrepreneurs doing that, and we've got large businesses coming in, but we'll talk about that in a second. So infrastructure, the governance structure. So how do we govern this market and ensure that people are safe and they can get value? And that is not just people, but it's organizations as well being safe. And then the actual data, getting the data out and creating business cases to get the data released, and the structure to get that data released. So those core pieces. And then alongside that, the services that we've just been talking about, the sleep cycle, the car services, etc., those have all got to be there as well. And the individual has to have an amount of know-how about how to use these types of services and the value that they can get from it. So suddenly when we went through this very dark night, we realized there were these component parts that had to come together. It was like, okay, that looks quite horrible, but by identifying it, you can at least understand what needs to come together. That was just before we did Brexit. So it's quite a while ago. And we have moved along, the market has moved a long way forward. And the EU has been really, forging ahead with regulation in this space. And we've been advising to the EU as well as the UK government when it's not doing Partygate or Flatgate or whatever it's doing. Sorry, anybody. But we've made a lot of headway into that governance structure. We have also made a massive headway into the technology and the infrastructure. We're talking about the people on the stage, but I see people like Julian in the audience as well, who's probably been speaking. Lots of people have been working on this infrastructure. And by the way, so are some of the very big companies. We're working with one of the biggest global banks at the moment who are looking at developing infrastructure. There is also a massive opportunity for the telecoms industry to build out some of this infrastructure because some of it needs to be embedded in the network. But that's a bigger conversation than this half an hour. But also the services, and lots of the services are now coming to market, and what we're talking about with cars, what we're talking about with health, sleep, they're all starting to emerge. So those themselves are starting to educate individuals. So these things are actually coming to pass now. And what we're now seeing is a move from us working with the strat team in large corporates into the operational team, which is how we're going to actually make this work, because our revenues and our bottom line depend on this working. Yeah. It's a really big transition, and it's really exciting. That's why I think it's taken us so long to get here, but we are really, really starting to motor ahead now.
Good. All right. Well, we are running late, and how long have we got, Susan? 3 minutes. 3 minutes of questions from the floor if you have them.
Yeah, I've got one. It's more of a statement than a question. I want to really emphasize what Thorsten said so nobody misses it. What polyPoly is doing is really unique in that rather than the data going to the company, they're sending the algorithm to the data. And then that's it's a shift that I don't think we want people to are taking advantage of the 95% of the processing power that's just sitting there idle, not being used in society. So it's both a privacy benefit, it's a social benefit. There's a lot going on there. So I was wondering if Thorsten just can comment on that one last point.
Thanks.
Okay, anyone else? All right. Okay, well, it's 5 past, we've already gone over. So I apologize that we've got so little time for you to all explain your wonderful services and your big ideas, but I will thank Thorsten, Sabine, Harrison and Liz for their time. I think we've now got an hour for lunch, is that correct? And yeah, so you can continue your conversations in there. And once again, thank you to the panel. Thanks for listening. Cheers.